Hello, everyone. I wanted to provide a quick update here as we've had some more data, more information, just time to get an idea of where Hurricane Hilary is going. We last spoke about 48 hours ago on Wednesday, and I think one of the last things I said was I would provide another update here as we got into Friday as to where exactly the storm was going, what its intensity would be, and ultimately what are the timing and the impacts for the southwestern U.S. as this makes its approach toward the area. We're looking at a satellite loop of Hurricane Hilary here. It looks quite a bit different already than it did on Wednesday. I think right there, kind of Wednesday evening, it was starting to get the look of a tropical storm that was trying to turn into a hurricane. And the forecasts from the National Hurricane Center were excellent. They had the forecast on Wednesday evening that it would form into a hurricane by Thursday morning and then potentially strengthen even further after that. We saw that. By Thursday morning, we had a hurricane in Category 1 in the Eastern Pacific. And then, very impressively, it quickly went from Category 1 at about 7 a.m. in the morning all the way up to Category 3, a major hurricane, by that same evening, Thursday evening there. So here we are, midday Friday. We still have a major hurricane here in the Eastern Pacific. It's kind of hard to orient ourselves here. Way up, kind of just past the top northeast kind of quadrant of this image, is the Baja California Peninsula. So we're about 300 miles to the southwest of that. This little island that you can see and hear, I believe it's called Socorro. As far as I know, it's uninhabited, which is good news because if it was, right, they'd be right in the middle of some of the worst conditions here. Currently a Category 4 storm in the Eastern Pacific. Minimum central pressure, I believe, last estimated down about 939 millibars. So this is a powerful storm in the Eastern Pacific. If we take kind of a wider view of this here, here's the Mexican coastline. Here's that kind of Baja California Peninsula that we just talked about, the storm to the south and southwest of that. Now, something we talked about on Wednesday, we've been mentioning it really all summer, getting into late summer, into the hurricane season here, is that not terribly far to the north or northwest, this storm is going to experience or track over some cooler ocean waters. Hurricanes, they enjoy those kind of warm bathwater ocean surface temperatures. That's one of the reasons that Hilary was able to form so quickly and then strengthen after that. If we jump over and look at those ocean temperatures currently in the Eastern Pacific, you can see the very warm ocean temperatures here, 30 degrees Celsius plus, which allowed Hurricane Hilary to form down here, quickly strengthened and moved up toward the northwest. Now, its current positioning is about right in here as a midday Friday. And you'll notice that if it tracks, as we expect it to, continuously toward the north or northwest, it's going to experience cooler ocean temperatures. And these storms respond pretty quickly to that. Not necessarily immediately, but it doesn't take more than a few hours of losing some of that ocean heat content for that storm to start weakening pretty quickly. And that's what the forecasts from the National Hurricane Center are showing here. Jump over here. We're at nhc.noaa.gov. I definitely instruct you to go here for more information in the official forecast from the National Weather Service here. They've been fantastic. As we go forward, still forecasting a major hurricane over the next 12 to 24 hours here. But the expectation as it passes that kind of line of demarcation from warm, favorable waters for development and maintenance toward cooler ocean waters is a pretty quick weakening back down below major hurricane status, further weakening expected as it approaches the southwest U.S. Border and coastline, eventually landfalling either somewhere here, just past the border here along the Baja California Peninsula, or even further up north towards San Diego as a tropical storm. Now, throughout this whole forecast, we have stressed that, the exact intensity of the storm in terms of maybe winds or the central pressure was a lesser story, certainly, than all the moisture and all the rainfall that this storm is picking up. So, whether this thing weakens at 6 hours or 12, 24, we have good confidence that it will weaken as a result of those cooler ocean temperatures. It's really all the moisture that it has picked up. It is a very large storm. We'll jump back and just look at this infrared satellite imagery again. Very wide circulation, picking up a lot of atmospheric moisture, and it is unfortunately carrying that north toward a geography in the southwestern U.S. that does not get a lot of rainfall, and we're going to expect, unfortunately, some extreme amounts here over the next 3 to 4 days. Right now, the track forecast here, we talked about kind of that uncertainty track earlier on Wednesday. At that time, the ECMWF had a bit more of a western or kind of oceanic track to it. It was kind of bending off toward the west coast of California here, and that was increasing some impacts both in rain and wind to the southwestern California coastline, even a bit further up the coastline toward maybe Oxnard or Santa Maria. Now, the GFS had a bit more of an eastern track, something kind of trying to take it almost over the Baja Peninsula entirely into parts of the far western desert southwest, or even the western lower Colorado River Valley. It works out, sometimes this is kind of how it works in meteorology, that it really split the difference thus far in the forecast. Now we're expecting a track kind of more in between the two, again, either landfalling just south of the international border there, or perhaps even just getting into far, far southern California near San Diego. The kind of implications of that track change since Wednesday is we're not expecting as extreme impacts along the coast, at least the south or central coast of California. Still expecting immediate impacts around San Diego, probably up north toward Anaheim and Los Angeles, but not much further toward the northwest in terms of those strong damaging wind gusts and kind of that more extreme flooding mudslide risk. Really kind of contained to this far southern California coastline. Where we have seen the story stay consistent is unfortunately to the east of there in the far western desert southwest, where some of the rainfall forecasts right now are getting, I will say, rare, dangerous, extremely impactful situation unfolding, unfortunately for folks really around kind of the Imperial Valley, the Coachella Valley, and perhaps some acreage further east of there as well. Quick look at intensity forecast going forward, currently at a Category 4 storm in the eastern Pacific here. Again, with that crossing over into those cooler ocean waters, the expectation is that this hurricane is going to weaken pretty quickly over the next 48 to 72 hours here, getting into Saturday and then Sunday. This is good news in that we don't have a powerful hurricane coming up into the United States, but we also know this going into each season that we typically have cooler water there and can expect that weakening. That's one of the reasons that even getting a tropical storm up into California is so rare, because there's almost this kind of built-in defensive wall of cold ocean waters there. Another reason that just now the National Weather Service has issued a tropical storm watch. I think it is the first kind of modern tropical storm watch ever for California. So it is a rare event that we're looking at right now in parts of California and far western Arizona. That's kind of the talk on the track and intensity of it. Again, I think it still sits backseat to the rainfall conversation. Really, water is going to be the biggest story here going into Sunday night and into Monday. Right now we're looking at a close-up view of the southwestern U.S. This is the National Weather Service, the WPC. Their prediction for rainfall totals really for the whole event here out through 7 to 8 days here. And really much of this is going to be falling here just tomorrow on Saturday, Sunday, kind of peaking Sunday evening for a lot of these areas in the southwest. And then conditions should slowly improve, certainly for Southern California and southwestern Arizona through the day on Monday as the storm exits off into Nevada and parts of the interior west as a very remnant low, likely lacking any sort of surface circulation at that point. Looking closer at this, we see kind of a very wide area of 2 inches plus of rainfall extending essentially the entire southern half of California up into the southern half of Nevada, including parts of far western Arizona. If you get nitpicky and look within that, the rainfall amounts get even a little bit more extreme. So I'll tell you now, the area that I'm kind of most concerned about for this whole event here is the immediate coast surrounding San Diego, and then areas of far southern and southeast California here. Particularly if there's kind of a bullseye or an area of maximum concern for this event, it is the Coachella Valley, where we have kind of bracketed on each side some taller mountain ranges that's going to collect and help to squeeze out a lot of this anomalous moisture. And the rainfall forecasts are getting pretty extreme for that area. Mudslide risk, flash flooding risk is essentially about as high as it's going to get for an area like that. This is a product put out by the National Weather Service, the WPC. They do different excessive rainfall risk areas here, and I can tell you that this pink here, this high risk for excessive rainfall, is pretty extreme. It's immediately concerning when we see this as meteorologists. I can say frankly that when we see these high risks issued, we often see life-threatening flash flooding follow. And so that's certainly the expectation here, again, in an area that includes the Coachella Valley and perhaps the far western area of the Imperial Valley in Southern California. Trying to get a close-up look at this here. Again, I'll kind of outline the Coachella Valley here, Palm Springs, Indio, California, further south toward the Salton Sea, parts of that are included. We have the Imperial Valley down here, Imperial, California, Mexicali, El Centro, really kind of seeing the very western edge of that valley included in the high risk here. But despite that, even some of these areas just outside of that, even as far east as Yuma and then to along the coastline out by San Diego, likely to see very, very heavy rain from this event. Flash flooding in localized areas certainly possible even just outside this kind of pink risk area here. So really this whole area under the gun. With rainfall starting essentially tomorrow as a result of the storm. We talked on Wednesday how the storm is helping to push up some of this moisture out ahead of the hurricane. And that could start as early as Saturday, potentially even Saturday morning for some of these areas. It's going to continue into Saturday night through Sunday morning, peaking Sunday evening as the storm approaches at that time. That's when we expect winds to increase as well. Look at the GFS forecast here. This one a little bit more recent. I want to give you an idea of impacts, the timing and the impacts here. Start this forecast here valid as a Friday afternoon. I'll take this into Saturday morning, and already we can see some showers, perhaps some storms here in the lower Colorado River Valley. Not expecting anything too strong early on Saturday, but of course, anytime we have thunderstorms lingering around, you can get pretty locally high amounts just underneath those. Those continue through Saturday evening into Sunday morning when the coverage of those showers and storms is going to increase, and then really peaking early, now midday on Sunday, with these rainfall values peaking Sunday evening now. So this is really looking at just before midnight, Sunday night into Monday here, and we can see some extreme rainfall values now falling again in that Coachella Valley here in South Central California. We have rainfall extending all the way up the southern coastline now, pushing up through Oxnard, up towards Santa Maria, including much of the Los Angeles area, all the way through San Diego. Winds are likely going to be peaking at this time as well, in that kind of 6 p.m. Sunday night through midnight into Monday here. And as I take this through Monday morning, very early in the morning as the sun is coming up, we see the storm exiting out into Nevada, but still seeing some strong rain on the backside of it, perhaps even getting into parts of the South Central Valley here, the San Joaquin Valley, with more higher amounts on the far kind of southern end of the valley here near Bakersfield and the surrounding areas there. So we go through the day Monday, getting closer to midday around lunchtime. Storm continues to push up into parts of eastern Oregon, western Idaho, where we could see values up to an inch, maybe even more in some of the valleys there, before finally kind of clearing out of the area Monday evening, getting into Tuesday. Despite that, still seeing some showers trying to form in the backside of this in the North Valley. I think there's probably a decent chance we get at least some rain into parts of the North Valley, of the Central Valley here, either Monday evening or getting in very early Tuesday. Another area I want to mention for high rainfall potential is western Nevada. There's kind of a number of rounds here where they could see some rainfall. If I take this back, we see rain pushing into there even as early as Sunday morning through the day on Sunday, and then yet again Monday morning as that circulation really tries to wrap up into Nevada proper. That's an area that could see 2 inches plus of rainfall. Again, more desert acreage, prone to some of that flash flooding we talked about. Some of the language we've seen from the National Weather Service has, at times they've said this could be rare, dangerous, impactful, unprecedented. And the reason for that is that we're taking quite a bit of tropical moisture and we're pushing it over desert regions. I mean, these are some areas, municipalities, and acreage which might get 4 inches to 8 inches of rain per year on average. And we're dropping essentially that amount of water overnight on Sunday night for some of these areas. This is a product that we typically use looking at essentially water vapor transport in the atmosphere. I typically show this product when we're looking at some of these powerful atmospheric river events coming into Northern California or Oregon, some of these very rainy places, and we're seeing values kind of really jumping off the charts here over the desert Southwest. So that's why you're going to see conversations about, this is rare, unprecedented event, because we typically don't see this much moisture moving this quickly over some of this desert geography. And unfortunately, the flash flooding risks in some of these areas could almost not be higher. One thing that I did want to quickly mention, it's again lesser of a story here, but the winds are something we should still talk about. Being a tropical storm coming into the area, winds can be kind of around that strong, maybe just beneath kind of damaging threshold here. So we're expecting kind of widespread 50-mile-an-hour gusts plus. So you could think of a healthy thunderstorm, a strong thunderstorm wind gusts in areas through far southern California, including, unfortunately, some of these areas likely to receive some of this heaviest rainfall here in parts of the Imperial Valley and further east on the lower Colorado River Valley. It'll also include parts of the Southern California coastline. It's not clear right now exactly how far north some of these stronger wind gusts will stretch. Whether they're kind of localized towards San Diego would probably depend on a track more over the Baja at the last minute. That's certainly possible. We're still kind of looking at a possibility scenario where we see that center of circulation try to sneak off and stay over the ocean here a little bit further to the west or toward the north than expected, and that would increase some of these winds wrapping around the storm in that counterclockwise fashion to get up into areas like Los Angeles and then south through San Diego as well. So we're keeping an eye on that scenario. want to give you kind of a broader look across the western region in terms of timing and rainfall. This is from a different forecast now, the ECMWF. Make this valid here Friday evening, getting into early Saturday morning. And we can see on Saturday afternoon now that rain, showers, thunderstorms overspreading the lower Colorado River Valley, parts of Southern California. So take this into Sunday morning, rainfall overspreading essentially that whole risk area that we were talking about earlier. So much of Nevada, western Nevada, the lower Colorado River Valley down through Yuma, Arizona, Coachella Valley, Imperial Valley, over again toward the southern coast of California here as that storm inches closer and closer to our national border, and then making landfall at some point Sunday p.m., perhaps Sunday evening here, very close to San Diego if this ECMWF solution is to be believed. And you can see some of these highest values here in terms of rainfall right over that Coachella, far western Imperial Valley area. Again, that's why our highest concern for that rainfall and flash flooding risk, that high risk we saw from the National Weather Service, really kind of highlighting this area here for the highest confidence and those life and property threats from flooding. Look at the ECMWF rainfall for the whole area here. Again, the highest values are going to be kind of focused down here across Southern California, parts of Nevada. But this storm, Monday evening, extending up into the interior west, parts of the Snake River Valley, eastern Oregon, the Treasure Valley, again, could see rainfall values exceed an inch here. Some of this acreage here is a little bit dry here in eastern Washington, parts of the lower Snake River Valley. Not necessarily sure if it's a bad thing that we get water at this point, again, but don't want to see a damaging hurricane be responsible for that. Probably lesser amounts extending through the upper Snake River Valley, but certainly possible that this whole area here gets some sort of water from this event here. Just looking at this one forecast from the ECMWF. Unfortunately, one area we talked about on Wednesday that did have the possibility of getting some rainfall out of this was the very dry Willamette Valley. And unfortunately, since then, over the last 48 hours, this forecast has been trending more toward the east. But there is some kind of glimpses of good news there in terms of the water forecast getting into next week, irrespective or after Hurricane Hilary comes through here. And then the North Valley, I do think they get some rainfall out of this. The ECMWF a little bearish on those chances just from this latest forecast here, however. We looked at this. This was the National Weather Service WCPC, I should say, forecast at the beginning of this video. This is the whole western view. So you can see them highlighting this area of 1.5 inches plus potential of rainfall here on the lower Snake River Valley, getting into the Treasure Valley here in western Idaho, eastern Oregon, with lesser amounts here along the middle and upper Snake River Valley. Western Nevada, kind of in an uncertain territory right now. I could see anywhere from maybe 1 inch of rainfall all the way up to something maybe like 3 inches of rainfall, depending on how exactly those waves come in over time. We'll get a look at that. And then some values could exceed close to 1 inch in the far southern part of the San Joaquin Valley. Quite a bit of rainfall there, which is not common. It's not something we typically expect here in late August. Also expecting something of a sharper cutoff here along the south, we'll call the south central coast of California. So not clear how much rainfall an area like Paso Robles will get here further to the north. If it takes something more of a westerly track, like we've seen from some of these forecasts, they could certainly be included in an area that could see 1 inch to 2 inches of rainfall even. And you consider in some of these coastal mountain communities, it doesn't take a lot of rainfall, 1 to 2 inches falling very quickly to create mudslide risk. The good news is we don't see a ton of burn scars in this area right now. There are some, but typically after kind of widespread wildfires, these rainfall events can be even more impactful because of the loose soils. I kind of want to finish where we started here. These are the key messages from the National Hurricane Center. Again, as conditions deteriorate Sunday evening, it's important to heed the advice of the local National Weather Service and your local municipalities, evacuations, and all that. I want to include some of the what I'll call stiff language from some of these forecasts because I agree with it. I think it's warranted. Some of this blurb here from the National Hurricane Center, we see flash urban arroyo flooding is expected with potentially rare and dangerous impacts. If we jump over to the National Weather Service out of Phoenix, which is responsible for the lower Colorado River Valley, even into the Imperial Valley of California here, we see them in terms of that flash flooding risk we talked about Sunday night and parts of the Coachella and Imperial Valleys, talking about significant rare and potentially destructive impacts. I said it before, that high risk, that kind of pink area there that we started kind of the video on. When we see this, unfortunately, very, very often life-threatening, perilous flash flooding follows. They're very good at their jobs in terms of highlighting these impacts here. So specifically, the Coachella Valley, I'm very concerned about on Sunday evening, to be frank, and that could include, if this area gets expanded a bit toward the east, parts of the Imperial Valley, or at least the western part of the valley here with some of these river runs in here overflowing their banks. So That's the update I have for y'all here on Friday evening. Please stay safe, and thank you for watching.